Suella Braverman tells Boris Johnson to quit and says she wants to be next Prime Minister. Attorney General was part of a delegation of cabinet colleagues who told Johnson he must step down. Attorney General Suella Braverman became the first member of Boris Johnson's cabinet to say she will throw her hat into the ring in a leadership contest after publicly telling the Prime Minister he must step down. Previously a staunch supporter of Mr. Johnson, she said on Wednesday night that the Prime Minister had handled matters appallingly in recent days. She was also part of a delegation of ministers who went to Downing Street to try to convince Mr. Johnson, unsuccessfly, that he must give in to demands to quit. She said she will continue in her role despite calling for the Prime Minister to go. Her announcement on Wednesday night came shortly after Simon Hart, the Welsh Secretary, became the third cabinet member to resign, just over 24 hours after Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak sparked an avalanche of resignations from Mr. Johnson's team. By the end of Wednesday, at least 44 ministers and aides had stepped down. The latest scandal, which has pushed Mr. Johnson to the brink, surrounds his handling of the Chris Pincher affair, an MP accused of groping men while drunk. Mr. Pincher stood down last week from his position as a whip, a position intended to ensure the good behavior of MPs. Downing Street has been accused of failing to give straight answers about what Mr. Johnson knew about previous accusations against Mr. Pincher. Despite suffering more resignations than any UK Prime Minister in history, Mr. Johnson was defiant and insisted that he would go on. He fired Michael Gove, the Levelling Up Secretary, and began a new reshuffle. Ms. Braverman said, "The balance has tipped now in favor of saying that the Prime Minister, it pains me to say it, but it's time to go." She said she will put her name into the ring if there is a leadership contest. She told ITV's Robert Peston, "My first duty is to the country, Robert, and as attorney I'm the senior law officer. And we're in a crisis and I have statutory legal and constitutional duties. I don't want to resign because I have that duty. We need an attorney in government." Asked whether she recognizes that Mr. Johnson will probably sack her, she said, "That is his choice, and I will do whatever the Prime Minister asks me to do." Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss and Ben Wallace would also be considered likely candidates to become the next Prime Minister. Who could replace Boris Johnson? The withdrawal of the Attorney General's support is a significant shift by the QC, who was elected as MP for Fareham in May 2015 before being appointed as the top legal official by Mr. Johnson in February 2020. She became the first cabinet-level minister to take maternity leave and was reappointed to a ministerial position in September. Special legislation had to be passed by Parliament to enable her to take time off from her ministerial duties. During her absence she was designated Minister on Leave, Attorney General, while her deputy, Solicitor General Michael Ellis, was made Attorney General. During last month's confidence vote, Ms. Braverman expressed hope the PM would win the poll with a large margin. The Eurosceptic had been a supporter of Mr. Johnson since her days as the chair of the Brexit-backing European Research Group. But Ms. Braverman on Wednesday joined Home Secretary Preet Patel, Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis and Welsh Secretary Simon Hart among cabinet ministers telling Mr. Johnson to stand down. But Mr. Johnson, 58, told his closest supporters he would not quit and that it was a choice between a summer focused on economic growth or the chaos of a leadership contest. He also predicted a new leader would be forced to call a general election. Allies said Mr. Johnson would fight on and launch new economic policies within days. The Labour Party was considering a motion of no confidence in the House of Commons on Thursday to push the Conservative Party rebels and test the government's majority.